Tonight we come together in this circle just as we are, to share the spectrum of emotions we feel in this season. Whatever our circumstances, we've come to this place, this safe space, into this honest circle that we create with one another. And it's for a lot of reasons. Whether we're preoccupied with memories, struggling with changes life has brought our way, or filled with sadness for the empty places at our table and around our tree, weighted by worries or afraid for our world. Or perhaps we're here just seeking refuge from the frenzied demands of the season, looking for an hour's peace and calm. We're all welcome here, regardless of what brings us here. Perhaps we need to be here together tonight. Tonight it's in our songs and our stories, in our ritual, and in the community we create with one another that we might find a spark of meaning and strength, a sliver of light to help us make our way in this Christmas season. We light this candle this evening for resilience that surprises us, for sparks wisdom that lights our way, and the conviction that the hope of the world rests not in might or cruelty, but in love that burns relentlessly, even in a broken heart, even in a broken world.
We come together as a community journeying through this season of Christmas expectations. We gather to share compassion and seek wisdom in this emotion-filled season. And so, we acknowledge the many facets of this season. In the glitter of tinsel and the hum of merriment, in winter's short light and long darkness, in the snow-blanketed fields and the icy breath of cold, in trees shrouded with snow, in the stories of this Christmas season, we come as weary travelers, seeking wisdom in the stars and shelter in this circle. Come, not knowing what
In this
This is a reading entitled Wildflower Saints from the book Journeying in Place by Gunilla Norris. There are so many leaves, piles of them. I take pleasure in their abundance, more saints than you could ever dream of. Each one singular, each one itself. Yellow, red, orange, parchment. They sail down in the autumn air like fearless skydivers. They're so trusting, letting go completely. Not questioning as I do. Will it be safe? Will I understand? Will it hurt? Stalling, qualifying, questioning, instead of releasing and taking into the air. The wildflower saints provoke me to remember the steadiness of return, year after year. They tell me that one does not need to be cultivated to be beautiful. They tell me that the soul remembers its essence if it is given room to grow. Life is a series of autumns and springs and summers and winters. They keep going. I think the more seasons we experience in life, the faster they seem to go. The deciduous trees are ever showing us the beauty in their growth, in their blooming, in their release, in their dormancy, each in their own time, year after year. Those seasons, those trees remind us that change is ever happening. Even now, if we could look outside into those cold, brown branches of the trees, we would see them preparing their strength, holding their very being tightly for the sometime future unfurling of new growth. But not yet. Obviously not yet. It's December. Has winter begun yet? And in this month, the turning color of leaves is that fading memory. Once these trees had absorbed all the sun that they could through their green leaves, and once their work of converting that raw energy into food for their very home, once that was done and their green chlorophyll has left their veins, the essence of who they are as leaves is stored at their tree's core. For another year, for another season. And it's only then, when that green, juicy stuff, that factory of energy and life, has gone into the trunk. It's only then that they reveal their true and vivid color. It's only then that we see their real truth, their real reds and oranges and yellows. But that time of autumn has passed and is not yet. Now's not the time for that. So our friends, the trees, they share with us their wisdom and courage that even when their colors are done, that there's something in them that is willing and ready to let go, to open themselves to the future unquestioningly, without worry, to know that for their mother tree there will be a future. There will be descendants to follow after and unfurl their green. In this December, we're wise to hear the wisdoms of the tree's leaves. At a time such as this, we're provoked to remember the ebb and flow of seasons and the steadiness of return. That what is lost, that what we miss, that thoughts of joy may yet return. We're provoked by those wildflower saints to remember the trust and courage it requires to let go, ever releasing what was, to the scary, risky, difficult questions of what could be. We're provoked by our friends, the leaves, to acknowledge the sheer beauty of just being, embracing that we need not be cultivated and grown in a greenhouse, or have it all together, or be pruned to perfection in order to be beautiful. And we're provoked by our teachers, the leaves, to remember that there are many ways of expressing ourselves. Our upset, our joy, our grief, our wondering, our fear, our hopefulness. Being confident that the essence of who we are always dwells deep within us. As we light this candle for change, may we live in the light of this leaf wisdom, ever changing, ever releasing, ever risking for what will be.
So birch swinging or birch bending is when you climb so high in a young birch tree that the tree bends and places you back on the ground. So this is an excerpt from the poem Birches by Robert Frost. When I see birches bend to left and right across lines of straighter, darker trees, I like to think some boy's been swinging them. Some boy too far from town to learn baseball, whose only play was what he found himself, summer or winter, and could play alone. He learned all there was to learn about not launching out too soon and so not carrying the tree away clear to the ground. He always kept his poise to the top of the branches, climbing carefully with the same pains you use to fill a cup up to the brim and even beyond the brim. Then he flung outward, feet first, with a swish, kicking his way down through the air to the ground. So was I once myself a swinger of birches. And so I dream of going back to be. It's when I'm weary of considerations and life is too much like a pathless wood, where your face burns and tickles with the cobwebs broken across it, and one eye is weeping from a twig's having lashed across it open. I'd like to get away from earth a while, and then come back to it and begin over. May no fate willfully misunderstand me and half grant what I wish and snatch me away not to return. Earth's the right place for love. I don't know where it's likely to go better. I'd like to go by climbing a birch tree and climb black branches up a snow-white trunk toward heaven till the tree could bear no more, but dipped its top and set me down again. That would be good, both going and coming back. One could do worse than be a swinger of birches. Throughout history and in stories, branches have always held a certain magic. Spinning a stick on tinder to make fire, extending an olive branch, dousing for water with a divining rod, lighting candles in a Christmas tree, and Harry Potter's wand, made of Hollywood, 11 inches, phoenix feather core. And of course, there's the childhood magic of reaching branch over branch, climbing trees. My sister and our neighborhood friends climbed weeping birch in the summer. I know that feeling of a supple birch branch, bending and placing you gently back down on the ground. In the winter, in weather like this, we climbed spruce trees. It's the winter attire that makes it an ideal time of year to tackle trees with needles. Bundled up in layer after layer of winter clothing like coats, ski pants, mitts, toque, and sorels, we were in tree climbing protective gear. With jacket hood up, we'd simply tuck our chin down, punching up headfirst into the spruce. Once I climbed really high in a huge spruce tree, and as I perched in the branches surveying the park below, a terrific gust of wind blew. I swayed with the tree. I love being in a tree in the wind. Moving in time with a tree tucked in close to the trunk, I feel one with it. How do trees survive the often daily onslaught of wind and the occasional climber? Outside, wind does cause stress to a tree, but the tree compensates in its very cells, producing special wood. Aptly named, it's called stress wood or reaction wood. More specifically, in leafy trees, it's tension wood, and in trees with cones, compression wood. Facing into the wind, into hardship, gives the branches their strength. Without wind, the tree would eventually break. Reaction wood is also what allows trees and branches to slowly contort over time into fantastic shapes and still be strong. It's the reason why trees can grow towards the best light. Branches, ever reaching up and out. Branches ever growing, growing towards light, reaching towards life. branches stretching towards survival to the light that sustains them. Even if the very ground underneath the tree shifts and moves, roots included, the whole trunk now tipped sideways, the top of the tree continues its upward journey towards the light. Even if the top growth is lopped right off, a nearby side branch or many nearby side branches simply take over and continue onward, ever reaching, ever growing. In this season of much darkness, of grief and loss remembered and relived, we may turn to the wisdom of branches, branches that live through the strain of the wind, branches that reach for the sun. We light this candle for the strength we seem to find to grow like branches, ever reaching towards those things that give us life.
Words of Wendell Berry, great elder statesman, poet, farmer, in his poem, Woods. I part the out-thrusting branches and come in beneath the blessed and the blessing trees. Though I am silent, there is singing around me. Though I am dark, there is vision within me. Though I am heavy, there is flight around me. Whether we find ourselves in old-growth forest among the redwoods, or on a humble path through the trees like the one in front of our house, there's something deeply spiritual about being in the woods. To be among those great spiritual teachers with earth in their roots and the sky in their reach. In the world of our stories, the forest is so often the home to the magical and the mysterious, a spirited place. In some way, we know this to be true. We know our lives were once much more intimately lived in the forest. And so we inevitably bring the forest into our urban lives. We plant our children's grade 1 trees in our yards, and we preserve parkland, and we find ways to be in relationship with these beings that have such resilient capacity to teach us how to live. Where we live in South Cooking Lake, so many of our neighbors have cleared the land in front of their homes, cleared all the trees away so they'd have a better view of the lake. We haven't been able to lose our trees. And at the top of our little patch of trees stands this grand fir tree. We've always called it the grandpa tree. I don't know why it wasn't a grandmother, but it's always been our grandpa tree. And it tells us something about the wind every day. And it tells us something about the cycles of the seasons in the changing position of the sun and moon in relationship to this tree. But it also teaches me something about the unseen. Its strength to endure the elements and to withstand the intensity of the seasons is buried beneath the ground in the roots that hold it, the roots that nourish it, the roots that allow it to reach into the energy of light. Its source and its strength of stability is mostly invisible to me. It's in the deep and wide reach in the ground, beneath its being, that its strength and its growth lies. Roots, largely invisible, utterly essential, ever enduring. Not only for the trees, but for us as well. An untold part of the story we celebrate in this season is very intentional about roots. The birth narratives that give us this season, given to us by those who found a great spiritual teacher in Jesus of Nazareth, begins in a part of the narrative we never read. A huge, long list of names to painstakingly tell us that this first-century wisdom teacher was rooted in the lineage of their most beloved King David. His family tree was quite a pedigree. He didn't just appear out of nowhere. He was one of them, rooted in their hopes and fears of the house and lineage of David, and rooted in the turbulent time in their history when Augustus was emperor, Quirinius was governor, Herod was king, and many were afraid. Roots, we all have them, not only in terms of a family tree, but also the soil in which we plant our lives, the earth of our experiences, the values that ground us, the hopes that orient us, the communities that nourish us, the sorrows that shape us. I've often thought of grief as a journey through tunnels, as those experiences that we constrict ourselves into and we move through, we endure, those times we just get through. But I'm coming to wonder, as I stand in the presence and wisdom of trees, if grief is not so much like a tunnel through a mountain as it is like a root into the soil. Not so much that which we travel through to get to another side, but more like soil we deepen into, rooting down deeper yet, around the stony memories and the soft memories, wrapping ourselves around and into more than we could imagine, discovering a capacity to push more deeply into life, to find comfort. Though we are silent, they're singing around us. Though we are dark, there is vision around us. Though we are heavy, there is flight around us. And though we are afraid, there are roots to hold us a forest in which to find and hold one another, and strength that will not fail, come what may. We light this third candle for our capacity to endure and life's invitation to deepen. This is a spacious time for us to sink into the experience of music, of this space and time we have with one another. A time to come and make your way around the blue Christmas tree here just behind me, to choose something from beneath that tree that speaks to you, a symbol of the wisdom of the trees that we've been sharing with one another tonight. There are cones and branches and twigs, and whatever speaks to you, please feel welcome to take something from beneath the blue Christmas tree. And also to bring your candle and to light it from any of the candles here on the table, to hold that light in your place throughout the rest of our gathering together. And in a time when we've all had an opportunity to spaciously make our way in our own time, in no particular order, using this time as we choose, we'll hold that light as we hold our prayers with one another and as we move forward in this circle with each other. So please enjoy this space and come when you're ready to light your candle and to choose something from beneath the blue Christmas tree. There are many ways to pray. We breathe, we sigh, we cry, we rejoice. And sometimes we wrap a few words into the spaces between us. And so in whatever way we pray, I invite us to hold our light and to bring our prayers to this light as I share a few words inviting us into a spirit of prayer. In these nights which are still growing longer, we seek the shelter of community in the mystery of darkness. We come to share our pain, to grieve the losses in our lives and the wounds of our world. We come with honesty in search of serenity. And in the shelter of this darkness, we dare to share our heartaches, global, social, and personal worries for our planet, the peoples and beings of our world, for our families and for ourselves. We hold this light that we might find ways to extinguish selfishness and cruelty and seed compassion and justice with our lives. In the solitude of this darkness, we remember those who are vulnerable. As we hold this light in our hands, we hold these beloved ones in the embrace of our love. In the brooding of this darkness, we acknowledge our grief over what might have been, our grief over what used to be, our grief over what is no more. We lament that we've survived and others we've loved have died. We laugh and cry our way into the realities we face. And in the safety of this circle, in silence now, we name those whose light we hold in our hands and hold in our hearts. In this season laden with memories and expectations, may we find serenity to accept the things we can't change, courage to change the things we can, wisdom to know the difference, patience for the things that take time, appreciation for all that we have, understanding for those with different struggles, the ability to love and to love each other, and the strength to get up and try again even when it feels hopeless. Knowing that hard things break and soft things bend, may we touch our vulnerability in ways that keep our hearts pliable with wonder and gratitude. With the wisdom of our stories and in the witness of the trees with whom we share this planet, may we offer each other strength for today, courage for tomorrow, peace for all that is and was and will be. We pray as those born of light and ever seeking it. Amen.
This season is filled with trees as a symbol of our celebrations in our public spaces, in our yards, in our living rooms. We may gather around one with families, with friends. These trees are our teachers. They're the teachers of wisdom, of releasing, of growing, of bending, of deepening. May we go from tonight finding strength in this symbol of strength and faithfulness, in this symbol of peace and courage that not only we circle around, but that dwells right here within us, that dwells between us and among us. May it be for us that the spirit of trees goes and dwells with all of us this season. Not just tonight, but through all of our markings and our comings and our goings. May we go in the light of love and peace.